Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this new room. Welcome to this panel. I'm Dylan. I write for The Economist. I have a background in both physics and economics, and I do some consulting on quantum technology as well. We are going to have a fantastic chat today with our lovely panel. The group of people we have today is a really interesting one, because we've got a mix of people quite deep in the kind of quantum hardware, quantum software spaces, and we've also got some people who've previously been in those spaces, have moved out, and some people who are in companies that have recently entered and are kind of dabbling a little bit in quantum technologies. So it's a nice high level sort of overview of the different perspectives in the industry, and hopefully we'll be able to tap some of those. So the point of this session is to chat a little bit about the intersections between quantum and AI, how investment in both of those are influencing each other, but what would be useful to start with is to just tap everybody a little bit for some of the perspectives and layer bits of the industry. So before we get into the details, would everybody, starting from my left, Margaret, could you just introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your company, their role, kind of investment in quantum, and we can take it from there.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Margaret Arakawa. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for IonQ. We have a booth outside. You should visit us. We are a full quantum system company from the hardware all the way up to the algorithms and applications. And our modality is trapped ions. We're headquartered in the US with offices globally.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aparna Prabhakar. I'm Senior Vice President at Schneider Electric and responsible for their strategy and sustainability around data center and IT infrastructure. But previously, I actually led IBM quantum computing's ecosystem worldwide. So that's my connection to quantum. And at Schneider, we are figuring out how we think about AI, which is onslaughting the data center world, and how we think about quantum in that context.
Thank you. So my name is Erin Beilhartz, and I am with Lufthansa Systems, a daughter company of Lufthansa Group. And over the past couple of years, I have led projects scouting and sourcing clean tech, including all of the software, all of the e-fuel kind of molecular developments, lightweighting, looking into different types of technologies that can reduce our fuel burn all along the stack of all of the different companies that we have. So this is why I'm here, and I am the quantum non-expert on the panel.
Good afternoon. I'm Daniel Lay with Strangeworks, replacing the other Strangeworks gentleman that's in the picture. I don't have a white beard. But with that, at Strangeworks, we're making quantum easy to use by providing a series of APIs and SDKs, along with the broadest portfolio of quantum and quantum-inspired assets to access in the cloud. And happy to be here.
Fantastic. So this is a terrific collection of people to kind of gauge how quantum is viewed in different bits of the industry, in just different bits of industry. We had a brief chat sort of earlier in the week to gauge kind of things we might want to talk about on this panel. And one of the very interesting things that came out of that was the experiences different people have had moving from companies embedded deep in sort of the hardware, software side of the industry into companies that are kind of more loosely connected to quantum, but interested in getting more connected. Before we jump into the sort of AI quantum stuff, I think that would be a lovely thing to discuss a little bit. Margaret, do you want to start by sort of giving quantum's pitch from within quantum? Why is quantum important? Why should companies care about it? Why should companies be sort of actively looking for ways to leverage quantum computing, quantum technologies in their industries?
That was really off the cuff because we didn't discuss that I was in. But hey, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer. It's my job. But because I think we've spent a couple of days talking about quantum, I'll give you an analogy because everyone asks me. Just some context, I spent about 25 years in classical. I interned at Intel and I worked at Microsoft for 20 years. So I'm essentially competing against myself. But I started on-premise hybrid cloud. And part of the reason why I came is because of the opportunities in quantum. I like to be on disruptive technologies. I helped work on, getting folks to believe in the internet before it was fast and before it was safe. But we still got a lot of websites out there, and you had to lay the groundwork. What I'd say about quantum for me is there are a lot of problems that can't be solved with classical. And classical right now is using up a lot of power, whether or not it's for AI or for EV. And if quantum can help solve a simple thing like, hey, can we compute differently? Can we solve problems in a different fashion, in a more cost-effective, more sustainable way? That's a good idea. The other question I get a lot about quantum is quantum going to take over everything? Is my iPhone going to have a quantum QPU chip that we actually sell at IonQ? And I'd say no. I'd say it's complementary. If at home in your kitchen, you have a stove, you have an oven, and you have a toaster, how many people in this room have a microwave? Did the microwave take over your toaster?
No.
It didn't. You know why? Because microwaves are terrible at toasting anything. They're terrible at browning anything. So you need a frying pan still and you on a stove, and you need a toaster. But microwaves can do something none of the other three combined can do faster. It can boil water faster than any of them combined. It can heat something from zero cold to something incredibly warm and delicious to eat. Microwaves are complementary to our eating delight. Quantum is complementary to our computing power. It solves differently. Most people don't ask how a microwave works. They just assume that it works. We here in quantum always have to describe how quantum works. But first we've got to say it's complementary and we need it. Like every household in America needs a microwave, every company in the world is going to need a quantum computer.
So
That's my pitch.
fantastic.
All right.
It was very good. Especially
Duly
off the cuff. So that's the pitch from within quantum, and that's how kind of quantum is seeing itself from within quantum. Aparna has come from that space and moved out of it. Do you want to talk a little bit about that transition and how that has played, how the way in which the field is seen are different in different places?
Sure. So before I start talking about how the transition has happened, I think it's important for me to preface this by saying I actually truly believe in the value unlock which quantum can provide. I think that's extremely important to talk about. And when I was in the world of quantum, knee-deep at IBM, building the largest ecosystem of quantum, I truly believed everyone around me knew about quantum. Everybody was excited about it and everybody wanted to work on it. That was the truth I was living, breathing every day. Mm-hmm. And then I stepped out, and it was a deliberate decision to step out into the world of data center and IT infrastructure because I wanted to understand the surrounding things. I wanted to get to know what was it that took an end-to-end infrastructure world and what did it take to build it. And I realized quantum was not just Horizon 2, it was a Horizon 3 event for a lot of folks who are actually in the data center world. Why? Because AI is wreaking havoc in our world. You actually have servers which have become really, really hot. That actually means your data center architecture is shifting dramatically. You are in a place where you have to think about thermal heat management the way you did not have to think about before. And for them, for us at Schneider, we are looking at it and we're saying, oh my God, we have so many near-term problems which are there. How do we think about those near-term problems? Should we be actually working on quantum? And I went in saying, yes, you should. And now, after 9 months outside of quantum, I'm like, hey, hold on a little bit. Let's figure out how do we actually bake the bread we have really well before we start thinking about that thing in the horizon. And we are exploring, we are looking at it, but we're looking at it cautiously from a distance because we are not quite ready to jump into it head on. So it kind of tells you, quantum is real, it is coming, but are you ready to get into the world of quantum is a very variable answer depending on what you're facing right now.
Fantastic. So Aaron is kind of sitting at that kind of very frontier of companies that have not sort of dabbled in quantum but are starting to. Do you want to talk a little bit about that perspective?
So we have dabbled in quantum. There are a few different use cases that I know that we have worked on. There was a challenge with IBM and Deloitte that we participated in. There was another approach with BMW. And so there are different use cases that certain people within our company are working on. But it doesn't mean that the entire company is all in on quantum or have even heard of it or know what to do with it. So, but the ones that do know what to do with it, I think that they know very well. And the use cases for aviation that are the most interesting. I think if you guys understand a little bit about quantum, or the ones who do, they're probably quite obvious to you. So for us, how do you operate your business effectively and economically is that you use less fuel. This is also the absolute game changer with regards to flying more sustainably. If you can get the fuel down in any way through lightweighting, through increased aerodynamic flight, or through flying more directly from A to B with all of the different parameters coming in, which are very complex from a data perspective, weather, no-fly zones, political areas that you're not allowed to fly over, and that you're able to manage all of this to reduce your fuel burn, then you are operating an economically viable business in an economically not super fun industry. So that is that is an area that we're interested in. But then we have in aviation the whole plethora of complexity with regards to moving people and things around an entire global system at different rates, with different schedules, with different dietary requirements, with different family needs, with different pain, like human pains. And so there's a lot of different use cases that we can bring to this room and we can tell you about. And if you are a quantum person, then come and talk to me and I'll tell you all about them if I don't get to them on this stage.
Fantastic. And Daniel, do you have any thoughts on this from the kind of software interface?
Yes.
level?
To the comments that were just made, in my travels over the past, I would say end of 23 until present day, talking to CTOs and CIOs of multiple, large and small corporations, the question that keeps getting raised is, when should I be looking at quantum, or how should I be looking at quantum? And interestingly for me was that, to Parna's comment about AI and how much it's wreaking havoc, it did catch a lot of people off guard and not ready for it, or surprised how fast it moved and how quickly it's influencing things. And with that, what I kept hearing was, I don't want another ChatGPT moment. I'm quoting that, right? So the question in my mind and the dialogue that we have with our customers and potential customers is really, where in your journey, what is going to be your strategy to adopt this technology? When are you ready? How do you jump in? Do you jump in all in? Do you dip your toe in it? Do you watch from the sidelines? But those conversations I think are really important to have, and they'll be of different significance depending on how forward-leaning the organizations are in technology adoption and what problems they're trying to solve, and taking all those things into account. But the reality is, this will be disruptive depending on who you talk to around the hallways here. When and how is the question, but not if, right? So, what is it in the individual company's strategy about adopting this that us in the industry can help with?
Fantastic. And with that, we can kind of segue into the title of the talk, which is the kind of intersection of quantum and AI. So over the last sort of 2 years, the world has been taken by storm by sort of large language models. We've seen kind of ChatGPT moment and NVIDIA moment. What is the impact on quantum been from the perspective of your different companies? And how are there any intersections that have been obvious? Does it look like that those interactions are going to change anytime soon? We can start with Margaret and then move across as well.
I don't think for us it's been such a sort of market demarcation before we cared or after we cared, because we've been working on algorithms with companies that use ML and AI. So right now we work with Hyundai, the very large Korean car manufacturer. But not only do they manufacture cars, they also manufacture batteries. So we've worked with them on autonomous driving, which actually uses pattern recognition, image detection. So you're getting in a car and you want to make sure the car stops at the stop sign. It turns out, how do you know that stop sign's a stop sign? Is it because in America, is it red? Is it an octagon? Does it say the word stop? What happens if a car hit it and it fell over and it's raining with a little dappled sunlight? In the world, does there exist a photo for a machine to learn and to then make the car stop? So with Hyundai, they're looking at small sets of data. How do you create have pattern recognition against a small set of data, but as well as extrapolate a whole set of parameters that never existed in the real world. A human being, our computer brains will stop. We'll stop even if the sign looks like no longer like an octagon, or if it's pushed over, or if it's pink instead of red. A car may not, because it might not have seen that photo before. So with Hyundai, we're working with them on something that's really important. It's not so that we don't ever have to drive. It's a pure safety measure. So a lot of the companies we work with Airbus as well, which I'm happy will help Lufthansa as well. Airbus is already looking at optimization. So to your point of people and things that have to be optimized, at Airbus, they have all this cargo. If the cargo is all different sizes, all different weights, they have to fit in bins in different size airplanes that go to many, many places around the world. That's like a combinatorial problem that's not currently being solved by classical. Same thing with flight gate assignments. I ran in Chicago from one gate to the other. It was half a mile away. Half a mile. My Apple Watch actually started pinging me and saying, "Are you working out?" And I was like, "Yes, I am working out." And it mocked me because I missed my flight. I missed it by 2 minutes. I felt like it was saying, "You should have run faster." But in fact, that was a flight gate optimization problem. Chicago is one of the world's largest airports. How many planes are there? How many gates? And how many changes are there due to weather? Which is also a problem that AI and ML can help with. So we don't look at it as a demarcation. Our customers are already coming to us with problems that are solved in these categories: image detection, pattern recognition, optimization, that are incredibly great for the use of quantum. So that's what we do. Our
I
customers
might even
ask us-
argue that the last problem that you raised is not a quantum problem, it's a stakeholder problem, airport, government, different airlines, hub, politics. I would say that the compute on that one might even be the lesser of the problem.
It's true. Actually, that's like the traveling salesperson problem, or how many left turns should a FedEx truck go in New York City so they don't actually they actually optimize on fuel. You know what they ended up deciding? They decided forget optimization.
Put them on bicycles.
No, you know what they decided? FedEx is one of the biggest spenders of tickets to the police department of the New York City. They decided, we don't care. In fact, they have a budget just to pay for all of their illegal tickets, parking where they shouldn't park. They said, forget it. The complex optimization problem is not worth it because they can't figure it out. They'd rather spend millions in tickets.
But let's be clear, we are very far away from solving traveling salesman problem. I think that's extremely important for us to be realistic about that aspect of it as well.
Right, but illegal parking is not the answer. I just really believe that New York City should push FedEx to do a different answer than that.
FedEx may question that.
Actually, FedEx is working, they have the largest, they're one of the biggest optimization usages of quantum, actually, so.
And from INQ's perspective, have you seen the kind of wave of investment into AI over the last few years? Has that spilled over into kind of interest in quantum as well? Has it crowded it out? What does that interaction look like from the kind of investment side of things? Investment and interest as well from sort of stakeholders and customers.
I think what more of these panel discussions of quantum AI, as well as there's more events now. But the biggest thing that we've gotten interest from and questions is about power usage of AI. Because like data centers right now, like in America, like power usage in America has been stagnant. Single digit use cases. There's not been a large fluctuation or need for our power grid in the US. But because of generative AI and EV alone, it went from single digit demand to 160% in 5 years, increase on power in data centers in the next 5 years. And that's probably wrong. I think it'll probably be like 10,000% increase. And it turns out for us, this may not be true for all modalities, but one thing, right now you can actually simulate quantum with GPUs, right? You can actually get a classical computer simulating what quantum can do with GPUs. And as you know, and as she said, GPUs take up a heck of a lot of power. And you need a lot of power to actually fund that in a data center. So we have computers at INQ that use single-digit kilowatts. And for example, just as context, the world's fastest supercomputer on Earth, which is in Tennessee at ORNL, it uses 25 megawatts. And our computers are about, single-digit kilowatts. our computer will ship next year will be 18 kilowatts. It'll be at AQ60 and above. At that point, for us to simulate that, because we use simulation just to test ourselves, right? We have a quantum computer. We got to make sure that we can also look at it in simulation. We started looking at the fact that 18 kilowatts of quantum power needed. What would it take us to just simulate that, forgetting an outside customer? It'll take 106 million kilowatts to simulate that on NVIDIA GPU chips. 106 million. So it's 6 million times more energy than what our quantum computer. And at that point, and then beyond that, quantum will not be simulatable. Even if it could be simulated, no one has the money or the power to simulate it. So that's the one thing that as people realize, AI is using these chips, it's so hungry for power. They're saying, where's other ways to solve problems for AI without using these incredibly money and power hungry sort of chips?
That's
Can I actually
Exactly,
counter
yep.
that a little bit? Because
Yes.
yes, let's do that. So as you think about AI, yes, it's extremely power hungry, but then there is a part of it, the very AI we are talking as power hunger is actually also applied for efficiency, right? NVIDIA recently released a paper where they showed that they improved their chip efficiency by 25x and made it less power hungry. So there is a paradox in there. With quantum as well, there is a paradox in there, and we have to be very careful as we think about the materials we are using, how we are thinking about it. Right now, we don't have metrics which measure apples to apple right now. So having this conversation around energy and efficiency, we actually need a way to find alignment between those two. Otherwise, we are talking in abstract terms, and abstract terms, on theory, it does make sense, right? Like what Margaret just said. I would get excited by it. But can the workflows which are AI applicable actually be taken into quantum and be applied as it is? The answer is not really. You are going to get some pieces of workflow which will be quantum relevant, but some pieces which are not going to be quantum relevant, and we have to differentiate between those, right? If you think about the future of compute, you will have different modalities. You will have AI, you will have quantum, you may actually have analog computing, which is supposed to be more efficient, and there's research ongoing about analog computing as well. And you will have all of these forms of compute which are happening. Then you take your workload, you see which is most efficient to run on AI, which is quantum right, which may be other forms of modality. And then we can have this comparison around sustainability and around how energy efficient it is. So, sorry, but I think as we talk about sustainability, we really need to find that alignment in the community. We really need to think about, are we comparing apples to apple? Unless we do that, it's easy to have that conversation about, hey, here's the energy it saves, but can you take the same workflows and apply it? So I want you to think about that. I'll leave that as a question because we as a community don't know the answer to that fully.
Can I try though?
Yes, of course.
Before you do, I'm gonna.
Okay.
Sorry, just because we're coming towards the end. We want to leave some time for questions as well. But Aaron, do you want to talk a little bit about in Lufthansa Systems, sort of in that sort of sector? You're looking at quantum and AI as potential options within the company. What are the relative weights placed on each? How is your company prioritizing those two? That's just a useful perspective.
So AI versus quantum. It is not necessarily the identical people looking at both things. So we have a huge kind of AI blitz on enabling chat with your data and getting the complexity out of all of the knowledge workers' daily work so that they're able to really go into an aircraft manual of 5,000 pages and ask questions and then extract out, or that we're able to use AI to kind of predict what might be the problem if these 3 or 4 lights in a cockpit are going off, and then there will be kind of a short list of pre-populated problems, which is enabled by AI, for instance. So I think that all of those are going first, but the things that are still still extremely interesting for quantum. Like, so today, I just saw, I've known about this for about 3 years. There's a R&D project that's been going on with the German aerospace DLR and some of our group companies about contrail avoidance. And there was something similar done by Breakthrough Energy and American Airlines and Google a couple of months ago. We are all in touch, but we're taking different approaches to try and solve the contrail problem. So this, from a computational perspective, does not need quantum. It's not that difficult. However, the data that we have access to in the atmosphere and the atmospheric humidity levels and things like this, there's certain things which we're not able to get off of the aircraft sensors. So the American approach was to take data from satellite, and we're having different approaches, but we're trying to get there from a lot of different backgrounds and different computational approaches. And what it means is that we still are not in a position to start I shouldn't probably say this but to start like geohacking in the future. If you start talking from academic perspective of what this means, that you learn how to avoid contrails, then you learn how to potentially create an early morning contrail that could provide cloud cover if we're going to have a heat snap this day. We do not have the atmospheric data granularity needed to not go up there and make an absolute mess. So it's not there yet. We are able to avoid certain things, but we've already noticed through this R&D project, that when you have an X factor on the granularity of data, you have an incredible jump on the accuracy of what you're doing, and you will be less likely to make mistakes. So I think that the putting quantum at those kind of parts of creating data is where the value lies in the future. And this is not where we are currently.
Fantastic. And Daniel, do you have any last thoughts on that before we tackle some questions?
Yeah, the other piece of it that we haven't talked about is the complexity of programming and the change in mind shift and methodology to use quantum computers. So one of the things that AI, I think, is going to help in this confluence is how do you use AI to make it easier to adopt this kind of technology and program these very complex systems? And those are kind of things that we're looking at and working on. Picture, if you will, LLMs that you interact with to formulate your problem, and AI agents that then will submit the problems to the machines and bring the results back. So, in democratizing the access to these computers, it's not just making them available, but also making them easier to use. And there's a huge opportunity there in AI to do so.
Fantastic. So we've got about a minute for some rapid fire questions. We've gotten 4 questions. The first one was about sort of energy efficiency in data centers, which I think we covered. There was a question about how relevant the capability, I'll read it. How relevant is the capability to compute on the edge versus the cloud for many of the applications mentioned? I don't know if anybody has thoughts on that.
I have a comment on that. Everybody's trying to push compute to the edge for the real-time needs and for the rapid processing needed for some of these applications. And some of the things that we're seeing out there right now is, quantum algorithms are looking to be, and we need to look at the scale, but looking to be efficient at compressing or compacting some of these LLMs, so that if you actually have to have that LLM in your handset, on your GPS unit, in your dashboard, et cetera, how do you make it accurate enough that it's going to be helpful, but compact enough that it can be handled by edge computing? So those kind of things are being looked at in a number of places right now, and having some impact.
Fantastic.
Can I just jump in, because the question was also about autonomous vehicles?
Very briefly, but
Okay.
we've reached the end of our allotted time.
I won't say. Oh, well, what's the difference between having real-time access to photos that are always constantly updating, so that the next time the cloud changes, will the car act differently? So you need a base of something in the cloud that's static, that taught the machine to do something, but access to real-time information for anything moving that's about safety, you need that, 100%. You'll need both.
Fantastic. And with that, thank you very much. Thank you to Margaret, Aparna, Aaron, and Daniel. Fantastic chat.
Thank you.
Good.